There are moments in life when the veil between the physical and the spiritual feels thinner than ever before. For years I walked in darkness, deeply involved in rituals and hidden practices that many people do not even believe exist. I understood strategies, entry points, and assigned operations. Today I stand to confess what I once participated in and what I witnessed with my own eyes. One of the most targeted places in any home is the bathroom. What really happens there is not random, and it is not innocent. It is intentional, calculated, and deeply spiritual. There is something most people never think about, yet it is one of the most strategic realities in spiritual warfare. The bathroom is not just a physical room in a house. In certain dark teachings, it is classified as a place of exposure and lowered resistance. It is a space where a person is alone, unguarded, and often mentally disengaged. Privacy creates comfort, and comfort often reduces spiritual alertness. When I was deep in those practices, we were taught that vulnerability is the doorway to access, not because the room itself has power, but because the human state inside that room changes. Understand this clearly. Attacks are rarely random. They are calculated around moments when a person feels safest. In the bathroom, people remove clothing, they relax their minds, and they assume no one is watching. That sense of isolation is what dark systems seek to exploit. It is not about tiles, mirrors, or walls. It is about the moment when someone feels hidden and unobserved. In that state, many people let their thoughts wander without discipline, and in spiritual matters, undisciplined moments can become open doors. In occult instruction, we were told that exposure weakens spiritual defense, not because the body itself is the target, but because awareness decreases. When someone believes they are alone, they often drop their guard. Their prayers are silent, their focus is scattered, and their spiritual sensitivity is reduced. The bathroom becomes symbolic of that condition. It represents a moment where the physical covering and the mental covering are both lowered. That is why it was considered a strategic point of monitoring. But hear me clearly, vulnerability does not mean defeat. Awareness changes everything. The moment you understand that no place is spiritually neutral, you begin to carry authority into every room. The enemy thrives on ignorance and routine patterns. When you step into any private space with consciousness and spiritual confidence, the dynamic shifts. You are no longer passive, you are intentional. You are no longer unaware, you are alert. The truth is not meant to create fear, it is meant to awaken strength. Darkness studies patterns, but light disrupts them. When you know that your safety is not dependent on walls, but on spiritual authority, you stop being a target. You begin to occupy every space with confidence and clarity, and that is when vulnerability turns into victory. Water is not just a physical substance that cleans the body. It carries deep symbolic meaning across many spiritual systems. In the dark teachings I once followed, water was never treated as ordinary. It was described as a medium, a channel, a connecting element between realms. That is why places filled with water were studied carefully and treated with strategic importance. Bathrooms were not seen as random locations, but as environments where this element was constantly present. The sound of running water, the act of bathing, the immersion of the body were all believed to create moments of spiritual openness. Whether people realize it or not, symbols influence atmosphere. Marine spirits are associated with water realms in many belief structures. The presence of water was taught as a point of symbolic alignment. It was not that the water itself carried power, but that belief and ritual intention assigned meaning to it. When someone steps into a shower, they often enter a reflective state of mind. Thoughts wander, imagination opens, and emotions surface freely. In that relaxed condition, spiritual awareness can become passive. Dark systems depend on passivity more than force. I learned that rituals often used water as a focus because of its fluid nature. Water adapts, flows, surrounds, and enters spaces easily. That adaptability was considered a spiritual metaphor for access. When people wash, they feel refreshed and renewed physically, yet they rarely consider their spiritual posture in that moment. The combination of solitude and flowing water was viewed as symbolic consent to openness. It was not about superstition, it was about psychological and spiritual positioning. Awareness was rarely present during those quiet routines, but here is the truth that changes everything. Symbols only carry influence when they are unchallenged. When you understand that no element has authority over you, the atmosphere shifts immediately. Water was created to serve humanity, not to dominate it. It cleans the body, it refreshes the skin, it restores energy. It does not possess power unless fear or ignorance gives it space. When you step into any environment with knowledge and spiritual confidence, you redefine the space. The same water that was considered symbolic access becomes a reminder of cleansing and renewal. The same quiet room becomes a place of strength and clarity. Awareness transforms symbolism into authority. And once you know that, no element can ever be used against you again. There is a reason routine was always studied carefully in the circles I once moved in. Patterns reveal predictability, and predictability creates opportunity. When someone follows the same schedule every day, their moments of privacy become easy to anticipate. Late night showers, early morning preparation, quiet moments before sleep all form a rhythm. In dark systems, this rhythm was never ignored. It was observed, mapped, and discussed as a window of perceived access. Night time in particular was considered significant, not because darkness itself carries automatic power, but because human strength tends to decrease when the body is tired. Fatigue lowers focus and reduces alertness. When people are exhausted, they are less likely to pray, reflect deeply, or guard their thoughts. The bathroom at night becomes more than a location. It becomes a predictable appointment. Predictability was always described as an advantage in spiritual strategy. I remember being taught that repetition creates comfort, and comfort reduces vigilance. When a person says this is just my normal routine, they rarely think beyond the physical act. They move through the same steps without intention. They enter the same room, turn on the water, and let their minds drift. In those drifting moments, thoughts are unfiltered, and emotions are exposed. It was never about forcing entry. It was about waiting for unguarded moments. But hear this clearly. Routine can either weaken you or strengthen you, depending on how you use it. The same predictable pattern that was once studied as access can become a disciplined moment of authority. When you choose to be spiritually conscious during your daily habits, you break the element of surprise. You turn passive routines into intentional encounters. Instead of drifting mentally, you become focused and aware. You do not have to fear the night, and you do not have to fear your habits. What once appeared as a vulnerability can become a place of strength when you take control of your spiritual posture. Awareness destroys predictability as a weapon. Intention cancels passivity. And when you walk into every routine moment with authority, nothing can claim access over your life. I did not share these truths to create fear, but to awaken awareness. What I once participated in thrived on ignorance, routine, and vulnerability, yet all of it loses power in the presence of light. The bathroom is not your enemy, water is not your enemy, and the night is not your enemy. The real issue has always been unawareness. When you understand who you are and the authority you carry, every room becomes ordinary again. Every routine becomes covered in intention, and every moment becomes guarded with confidence. You are not a victim of hidden forces. You are not at the mercy of unseen strategies. Once you walk in knowledge, you walk in strength. And when you walk in strength, nothing has permission to access what belongs to you.